Discover the incredible truth hidden in my daughter-in-law's phone. A shocking revelation awaits. The beep of Sarah's phone shattered the late evening quiet. She glanced down, startled, her heart racing as she saw Jessica's name lighting up the screen. The woman was enchanting, an effortless blend of charm and grace, but her polished perfection made Sarah uneasy. She tossed her phone aside, thoughts swirling like autumn leaves in a gust of wind. This was not the young woman her son had married. This was a stranger wrapped in wealth. Long shifts at the hospital gnawed at Sarah, her worn scrubs soaking in the sweat of unyielding responsibility as she insisted on pouring every ounce of her soul into being a nurse. Her late husband's practice was a beloved piece of him that she infused with her care. And now, with Daniel so wrapped up in his new life, coming home felt different. It was like tracing the familiar lines of a favorite book, only to find a few new pages inserted. Sarah felt herself falling away, and as days bled into weeks, she hesitated to voice her fears. Where did her family fit in this new scheme? She knew the whispers of privilege would come at her, and the thought of losing her son to Jessica's affluence twisted her stomach. When Jessica asked her to help sort out her mess of a phone, Sarah's hesitation turned to determination. She'd discover why her son seemed shrouded in Jessica's glossy surface. The implications felt dangerous, a clandestine mission she couldn't turn down. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The moment Sarah unlocked Jessica's phone, dread skittered down her spine. Images of Jessica's curated life overshadowed her own, but the messages, they were a vortex of betrayal. Plans that carved up her practice like a butcher's knife. Her heart sank deeper. Accusations danced around her mind. Could she really be so hardened as to dismantle what Sarah's husband had built? Each word she read coated her with a palpable, choking fear. A betrayal hidden under layers of charm and intelligence, all for the sake of ambition. Cornered by betrayal, she confronted Jessica that evening. The living room felt alien, the air thick with tension. Each woman stood firm on opposing sides, a gulf visible in their expressions. Sarah's thoughts raced, a chaotic mix of loyalty and fear. How could Jessica expect to step into their lives and tear down everything that held meaning? Jessica's poised response, articulating dreams of expansion, struck Sarah like a slap. Wealth had drowned out sensibility, and the jagged edges were made of pain too deeply embedded to ignore. As harsh words hung between them like storm clouds, Sarah realized they were both fighting unseen demons: class, integrity, loss. Jessica's shield cracked just enough for Sarah to glimpse what lay beneath. Vulnerability ignited an unexpected flicker of empathy. This was not a simple rivalry. Yet the deeper they delved, the more complicated the shadows became, leaving Sarah with a spine-chilling thought. Could she really trust this woman? With emotions entangled, each pushed to their limits, Sarah was left teetering on the brink of a decision. Could they possibly reshape this emerging family bond? Just as hope nudged its way into the chaotic fray, a new message buzzed on Jessica's phone, hinting at secrets that could throw everything into disarray. Suddenly, the foundations of Sarah's life illuminated cracks she wasn't prepared to face, and she knew the true battle had just begun. The night was heavy with unspoken words as Sarah sat alone in her dimly lit living room, nursing a cup of cold tea. A fleeting sense of calm enveloped her, but the unresolved tension from her encounter with Jessica gnawed at her. What had initially seemed like a confrontation morphed into a revelation of sorts, one that both terrified and intrigued her. As much as she wanted to dismiss Jessica as merely ambitious, the vulnerability she had unearthed began to peel away the layers of her own insecurities. With every review of Jessica's messages replaying in her mind, her internal conflict grew. Was this about protecting her family's legacy, or was it a fear of being inadequate? Driven by a hunger for clarity, Sarah sought out any strategic way to reclaim her narrative. She was a nurse, a caregiver. Why should she not care for her family in the same way she tended to her patients? In the following days, Sarah grappled with how to engage Jessica without provoking further discord. This wasn't just a clash over ambition. It was about preserving familial bonds against a backdrop of rapidly changing dynamics. She decided that understanding Jessica, and not just as an adversary but as a potential ally in her family, was the first step. She needed to shift her perception from defense to engagement if she hoped to influence their shared future. Determined, Sarah punted a simple invitation to coffee towards Jessica, her anxiety twisting in her gut at the thought of sitting across from her. It felt like handing over her vulnerability on a silver platter, yet she convinced herself that the only way forward was through risk. With every passing moment, Sarah's resolve solidified. She would uncover more about Jessica, not just the woman who threatened her world, but the person Daniel chose. When Jessica accepted the invitation and arrived at the small cafe, her charm radiated, but Sarah could sense the tension simmering just below the surface. As they settled into their seats, Sarah took a breath, feeling the weight of unexpressed words hang heavily in the air. Rather than leading with accusations, she chose to lean into vulnerability. "Jessica, I wanted to talk about how we can work together," Sarah said, hoping to project sincerity as she spoke. "I feel like there's been a misunderstanding between us." Jessica's eyes narrowed slightly, an expression Sarah recognized as guardedness. "What do you mean?" "I know you've been passionate about your plans for the practice. I want to understand your vision better because I'm not ready to give up the essence of my husband's work," Sarah replied, weaving her truth between careful folds of inquiry. To her surprise, Jessica leaned forward, vulnerability flickering in her expression. "I only want what's best for Daniel. I thought you'd be proud of the changes I envision," she admitted, a tremor of uncertainty cracking her polished demeanor. This moment of honesty opened the door for deeper conversation, revealing layers of their motivations that neither had anticipated. Sarah learned more about Jessica's aspirations and the dreams she held, ambitions forged in her pursuit of acceptance in a life that felt foreign. They spoke about grit in their respective fields, the drive that brought them success. It became evident that they were not so different after all. However, amidst the budding camaraderie, Sarah's mind raced ahead. If their ambitions and motivations were interconnected, what function would they serve in Daniel's life? The unsettling reality of intertwined destinies echoed through her thoughts, forcing her to confront the tragedy of misjudgment. The meeting ended with a tentative accord, but the electric sense of urgency lingered. Sarah was still very much standing at the crossroads of her life's direction. Trust was fragile, but hope flickered anew. As she returned home, a gnawing feeling nestled in her chest. Had she truly made headway, or was this just a diversion? The thought felt ominous, revealing palpable tension as she discovered another unread message lighting up Jessica's phone from earlier that afternoon, hinting at plots that deepened the shadows of doubt surrounding them all. With a deep breath, Sarah realized that the journey ahead was laden with complexity she had never anticipated, and the most challenging truths were still veiled in uncertainty. The moment had come to face her own fears and emerging possibilities, but what kind of truth awaited her in those fractured digital echoes? Sarah found herself wrapped in a cocoon of self-doubt as she stared at the blinking screen of Jessica's phone, an iridescent beacon of secrets begging to be uncovered. The message, tauntingly unread, felt like a doorway to an unsettling world, one that could either consolidate her understanding of Jessica or devastate her fragile alliance. As a nurse, she had always focused on healing, yet here she was, grappling with the desire to unearth another's truths, even if those truths could shatter her own. Despite the risk of betrayal, the urgency within her urged Sarah to act. A sense of desperation pulled at her. Was it really about extracting information, or was it rooted in her need for a semblance of control in an uncontrollable situation? Determined to confront this inner turmoil, she pulled her phone from her pocket and hesitated. Should she remain passive and trust the dialogue they had begun, or should she delve deeper into the world Jessica inhabited? After agonizing moments, curiosity triumphed over her better judgment. She flipped her phone. The screen flashed open, and she began to dissect the layers of her own fear, pinned beneath the weight of uncertainty about who she was becoming. Would she allow this journey to confront her, not only as a caregiver, but as a woman standing on the brink of discovery? She thought about their earlier conversation. Was it possible that beneath her guarded approach, Jessica carried a shared commitment to preserving Daniel's practice? Sarah needed clarity, and fast. Intrigued and terrified, she paced the living room, her mind racing to understand what subtext lay beneath those hidden messages. The realization hit her like a wave. This was more than just about Jessica. It was about Sarah's own aspirations and fears, her intertwined narrative with Daniel, and now, it seemed, with Jessica as well. She recalled the essence of their previous conversation, the flicker of camaraderie laced with competition, and how the boundaries between ally and adversary blurred. Then the gravity of it all struck her. What if Jessica's hidden message contained not just ambition, but a substantial roadmap of intentions? Determined, she sank into her couch, grappling with the possibilities. What if buried within Jessica's plans was an opportunity for Sarah to redefine her role? Could she extract strength from this predicament, forging a way to ensure the legacy she cherished? Suddenly, Sarah's resolve crystallized. It was a risk she had to take. She needed to confront Jessica, not to expose her, but to call for transparency and partnership, an exploration of their shared futures, rather than a personal battleground. With that focus framing her strategy, she set her course. The next morning, armed with both the knowledge of their talk and her unyielding commitment to her family, she prepared to reach out. In the back of her mind, she wondered if she would be met with openness or further ambiguity. Driving the conversation would demand all of her newfound resolve. But just as she opened her phone to text Jessica, a flurry of notifications fluttered in, an avalanche of alerts that flooded her with adrenaline. Had something shifted overnight? Who had reached out? She hesitated, feeling a flicker of anxiety course through her. Caught between these rising emotions, she couldn't shake the feeling that one decision would lead her down an entirely different path, where danger danced tantalizingly close, intertwining her life's narrative with Jessica's. The revelation of what lay ahead loomed closer, tantalizing and terrifying in equal measure. Despite the fear thrumming in her veins, a spark of determination ignited within. The crossroads in front of her crackled with tension, and a singular question pulsed forward. Would she step into the unknown and confront the reality of their dynamic? As Sarah prepared to press send, she realized that she could either embrace the discomfort or retreat into the shadows, leaving the truth to fester in ambiguity. The time had come to face the storm that awaited her, one that could either shatter the illusion she had built or transform her understanding of the woman who challenged her fate. The morning light filtered through the kitchen window like a spotlight on her wavering resolve. Sarah regarded her phone, the screen radiating with potential connections and consequences. Each notification wove a different narrative into her life, teasing her with revelations that felt both urgent and treacherous. She needed to choose her moment carefully. Yet the pressing weight of anticipation molded her thoughts into a tight knot of anxiety. Decisions loomed heavily, acting as a mirror to her deepest fears. Would she truly grasp the reins of her destiny, or would she allow herself to be swept away by the undercurrents of uncertainty? With a deep breath, Sarah began to sift through the messages lighting up her screen, each one a puzzle piece of her day, a blend of work commitments and personal notes that felt inconsequential against the gravity of the path she was contemplating. She focused on her reflection in the glass, an image of determination yet tinged with vulnerability. The life of a nurse had taught her to navigate pain, empathy, and healing, but here was a different kind of emotional triage. It was time to dispense with the old patterns, to evolve from her role as merely a caregiver into a woman ready to confront both her discomfort and her desire for empowerment. The thought of reaching out to Jessica held more weight now, a dual-edged sword that could sever the ties binding her to uncertainty or ensnare her within deeper conflict. Sarah's mind flashed back to the look in Jessica's eyes during their last conversation, a mixture of challenge and camaraderie that ignited something dormant within her. Why had she shied away from strength before? Why had she allowed her own insecurities to dictate the limits of her actions? A new resolve surged through her.
The uncertainty was indeed daunting, but Sarah recognized a critical truth. Approaching Jessica could become more than just an act of confrontation. It could be an opportunity, not only for collaboration, but also for her own metamorphosis, the pivotal moment where she no longer allowed fear to dictate her choices. As the clock ticked toward the busy hours of the day, she sensed that seizing this opportunity might lead to the clarity she so desperately sought. But was she prepared to handle the truths Jessica might reveal? What hidden motivations lay beneath the surface of their professional relationship? Determined, she settled at the kitchen table, the fortress she had built around her heart unintentionally crumbling under the weight of her resolve. A steady hand hovered over her phone. She was ready to text, but then hesitation gripped her again. Was she truly prepared to expose the layers of her own insecurities while potentially uncovering Jessica's reluctant truths? The thought brought her to yet another realization. This wasn't only about confronting Jessica. It was also a confrontation with the parts of herself she had long ignored,
The rural girl who yearned for significance, the ambitious woman who deserved her space in a world filled with competing voices. Could confronting Jessica bolster her confidence and deepen her understanding? Or would it fracture any existing alliance? The intensity of her internal debate crescendoed as the echoes of their past interactions spun around in her mind. If she didn't take this step, she risked lingering in the shadows, perpetually envious of the control she saw in others. Finally, Sarah pressed send. The terse message was simple. Can we meet? I think we need to talk. Now, the dreaded wait began. Anticipation melded with anxiety. Each moment stretched as she mulled over the possibilities. What if Jessica turned defensive? What if this conversation unveiled hidden rivalries? And just as she steeled herself against an onslaught of doubt, a new notification chimed in from Jessica. Sarah's heart raced. What would it reveal? In this very exchange, her destiny hung precariously. The moment of truth was upon her, the stakes rising higher than she had anticipated. Little did she know, this meeting would unearth not just the dynamics between them, but also the powerful secrets Sarah had yet to confront within herself. What would be revealed when the layers were peeled back, exposing the raw and exposed truth lurking in the depths of their connection? The notification glowed ominously on Sarah's screen, a stark contrast to the morning sunshine dancing over her kitchen. A quick glance revealed Jessica's name, and Sarah felt her nerves tangled tighter. Sure, where and when, the reply read, casual yet inscrutable. The straightforwardness was almost mocking, an echo of every second she had spent deliberating her approach.
She couldn't shake the feeling that this moment might expose more than just the professional boundaries they shared. Was she prepared not only to confront Jessica, but also her own desires masked beneath layers of self-doubt? With every passing minute, Sarah imagined the conversation unfolding, mapping out pathways that could lead towards confrontation or camaraderie. It was no longer just a meeting, it was an opportunity to navigate the shifting landscape of her professional identity. As the clock inched toward their agreed time, thoughts cascaded through her mind like a turbulent stream. What did she truly want from this encounter? Arriving at the cafe, she sat at a corner table, heart racing in tandem with the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock, each sound amplifying her apprehensions. She fiddled with the napkin, folding and unfolding its crisp edges, as if wanting to unravel her own tightly wound emotions. The smell of roasted coffee filled the air, a comforting aroma that contrasted with the storm brewing inside her. Jessica strolled in, radiating confidence with each deliberate step. It struck Sarah how effortlessly she seemed to command the space around her, drawing glances and subtle respect. For a moment, Sarah questioned her place in this dynamic. The pang of self-doubt ignited a defiant spark within. If Jessica could command her reality so boldly, why couldn't she? Hey, thanks for meeting, Sarah offered, attempting to inject warmth into the air before them. Yet uncertainty lingered, disguising itself as small talk. Jessica nodded, her demeanor unyielding. Of course. What's on your mind? The directness of the question hung between them like a dense fog. It was clear that the ebb and flow of their professional lives had been punctuated by unspoken tensions that neither wanted to address. Sarah had to navigate this delicate territory with caution. Taking a breath, she chose to cut through the silence that blanketed them. I've been thinking a lot about the dynamics of our work together. It feels strained. Jessica's eyebrows lifted slightly, her expression unreadable. Strained? It hasn't felt like that to me, she replied, an edge of defensiveness creeping into her tone. Maybe not for you, Sarah countered, her own pulse hammering. But I often wonder if we're on the same page, especially with the upcoming project. There's an undercurrent that feels unresolved, and I want to know how you truly see it. The atmosphere shifted. As Sarah voiced her uncertainties, the grounding firmness that had initially held her together began to crack, revealing the vulnerability underneath. Could this be the moment of liberation she craved? Would she emerge stronger, or would she uncover shadows lurking within her own motivations? Jessica leaned back slightly, absorbing the words laced with both inquiry and challenge. You're right, there is tension. But you've been holding back, haven't you? There's something more you want to say. Her invitation stirred a storm inside Sarah. Here was an opportunity to delve deeper, to confront not only Jessica's motivations, but also her own. Would she admit her fears of inadequacy, the fear of becoming just another cog in the system? Sarah opened her mouth, the words teetering on the edge of her lips.
I feel overshadowed, Jessica. I want to contribute more, but it's difficult to voice it when... The moment hung suspended, boiling down to a raw honesty that both terrified and exhilarated her. She pressed forward, diving into the depths of her insecurities. This was no longer just about Jessica. It was about her own journey to breaking free from the confines of fear and stepping into her rightful place. Yet behind Jessica's calm exterior lay layers of complexity. The truth was still veiled, waiting to be discovered. Now that the floodgates of emotion were open, what more would be revealed in this uncharted conversation? And could Sarah truly confront her fears, or would the weight of her vulnerability bind her even tighter? The answers seemed just out of reach, but the conversation had only just begun. As the silence stretched out, Sarah felt raw and exposed beneath Jessica's penetrating gaze. Her heart pounded in her chest, a rhythmic reminder of the stakes involved in this moment. I feel overshadowed, Jessica. I want to contribute more, but it's difficult to voice it when it feels like everything is already decided before I have a say. Jessica's expression transformed. The defensiveness gave way to something softer, a flicker of understanding. So you just want more in the collaboration, more influence? She probed. Sarah nodded, feeling a glimmer of empowerment. Yes, it's like I'm always engaged, but I'm not fully included. I can bring fresh ideas to the table. I just need to know they're heard. The room brightened, as if responding to her newfound resolve, the morning sun streaming through the cafe windows, highlighting any potential for change. This was Sarah's moment to own the narrative, to step beyond her shadow. She shifted her body towards Jessica, leaning in slightly as though she might yet bridge the gap between them. I have things to offer. I want to collaborate, not just follow, Sarah asserted, surrendering to the strength of her own voice. The admission hung in the air, heavy with promise and trepidation. Jessica's eyes narrowed, weighing Sarah's words, as if they were more than just an assertion. They were a challenge. What if we reconfigure our roles? Jessica suggested. You could lead a segment of the project, take more ownership. You'd need to own that space, though. It's not given lightly. Sarah felt a jolt of disbelief at the suggestion. Lead? Could she really step into that role? Lead, she echoed, testing it against her tongue as though it might bring clarity. I'd love that, but... Yes, but, Jessica prompted, the challenge beckoning her forward. But what if I fail? What if it unveils more about my weaknesses than strengths? The question clung to her, woven with strands of fear and lingering self-doubt. The notion of risk, whether in venture or vulnerability, felt daunting. Failure is part of growth, Sarah. You've been good at what you do, but this will require something else. It'll require you. Jessica's tone softened, coaxing yet insistent. Are you ready to step up? Those words resonated deep within Sarah. The emotional barriers that had confined her now shimmered with possibility. I think I want to be ready. I just don't want to slip back into feeling inadequate, she responded, half lost in contemplation, yet feeling urgency bubble forth. Jessica reached across the table, her hand hovering just above Sarah's. You don't have to do this alone. I'm here to support you, to challenge you. It won't all fall on your shoulders. We'll navigate this together. As Sarah processed Jessica's offer, a sense of dread settled alongside excitement. It was unnerving to realize that her latent capabilities had only been awaiting her recognition and an ally willing to see her potential. The initial trepidation morphed into curiosity about her own boundaries. Could she redefine herself in this professional space? I can't promise perfection, but I can promise effort, Sarah asserted, her voice steady, asserting newfound conviction. That's all I ask, Jessica replied, a hint of pride evident in her tone. The tension between them lessened, a subtle camaraderie dawning as they forged a path forward. Yet, deep within, Sarah knew this new commitment demanded more than surface-level changes. It would confront long-held beliefs of competence and self-worth. As they returned to discussing upcoming project logistics, each decision felt like stepping stones across a churning river, a journey fraught with potential pitfalls, yet promising exhilarating outcomes. In that moment of partnership, Sarah felt the rush of empowerment against the remnants of her earlier apprehension. What lay ahead was unknown, but a shift had occurred. Now the question lingered. Were they ready for the implications of this new dynamic? With every discussed detail, an avenue opened wider, presenting opportunities for confrontation, not just against Jessica, but against the fears that lurked in the corners of Sarah's mind. Could she truly reshape her reality with bold contributions etched alongside Jessica's authority? Or would she find herself back where she started, still fighting shadows? The next decision hung thick in the air, laden with the weight of possibility. Would she seize it? The next few days unfolded as challenging yet invigorating as Sarah navigated her emerging role with Jessica. Each morning, she entered their shared workspace armed with a notepad full of ideas, while her heart fluttered with a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. No longer merely an observer, she was stepping onto a stage, albeit a dimly lit one, where shadows of doubt still lurked. She began by leading their first brainstorming session for the project, cautiously outlining her vision. The room buzzed with anticipation and trepidation alike as her colleagues glanced at one another, uncertain how to react to the shift in dynamics. Sarah's voice gained strength as she articulated her thoughts, weaving in concepts like innovation and engagement. Yet, with every word uttered, self-doubt clawed at her insides. Would they embrace her ideas? Would they see her as a leader, or merely as an anomaly in their well-established hierarchy? As the session proceeded, Jessica encouraged open dialogue, inviting feedback that set Sarah's heart racing. The challenge lay in fielding critiques without flinching, adapting her responses to build on their insights while remaining true to her vision. It was a delicate balancing act, one that tested her resolve and intellect. A pivotal moment arose when one colleague, Mark, expressed skepticism about one of her proposed strategies. "That approach seems rather risky, Sarah. Are we sure it aligns with our overall goals?" he questioned, his tone casual but edged with authority. For an instant, Sarah's throat tightened, the urge to retreat into silence surged within. Yet Jessica's supportive presence anchored her. She resisted the impulse to deflect, instead responded with conviction. "I appreciate your perspective, Mark. However, I believe that by embracing calculated risks, we can achieve groundbreaking outcomes that resonate more authentically with our audience. Here's how." With renewed clarity, she unpacked her reasoning, demonstrating both vulnerability and strength. The discussion shifted, and for the first time, she felt respect form in the room's atmosphere. They appreciated her perspective, engaging in constructive debate, turning critiques into collaborative growth. After the session, a surge of exhilaration coursed through Sarah as she stepped into the next phase of her journey. She was learning to own her voice, to take ownership over her space, gradually reclaiming the authority she had previously deemed unattainable. Each interaction with Jessica reinforced her belief in her capabilities. The bond they formed offered a sturdy foundation as she navigated her burgeoning role. But beneath the surface, more profound challenges loomed. During a late-night work session, staring at the project timeline, Sarah caught herself spiraling into self-doubt once again. Had she truly shifted the team's perception of her? Would they still tokenize her contributions when things spiraled out of control? The fear of collapse, the shadow of failure, threatened to ensnare her in its grasp. Determined not to succumb, Sarah jotted down a list of personal affirmations. "I am capable of leading. I contribute valuable insights. I am worthy of this role." Yet, with each affirmation, whispers of her past echoed: failure, inadequacy, insignificance. The next morning held an unexpected twist. As Sarah entered the office, she discovered an email waiting in her inbox, imbued with an urgency that sent waves of anxiety through her. The subject line read, "We need to talk about your leadership role." Sensing the weight behind those words, Sarah's heart raced. Had she misstepped? Had her recent confidence led her to overestimate her place in the project? The door to her office swung open, and as she stepped inside to confront this new mystery, determination brimming with a hint of dread filled her. Would she secure her newly forged identity, leaving behind the shadows? Or would she face a confrontation that would unravel her hard-fought progress? Approaching the unknown, Sarah steeled herself for the conversation ahead. She had to know if her burgeoning leadership would be affirmed or scuttled. The air in the small office felt thick, almost stifling, as Sarah stood before her laptop, mind racing with possibilities. She had imagined various outcomes for the conversation, but the reality of sitting down with her supervisor made it all seem so immediate and pressing. Would they commend her for her courage, or would the email mark the beginning of her unraveling? As she settled into her chair, Sarah took a deep breath, recollecting her affirmations to ground herself. "I am capable of leading. I contribute valuable insights." Yet the uncertainty of what lay ahead loomed over her mind. She focused on the door, waiting for Jessica to enter, hoping for support. Moments stretched into what felt like an eternity until a knock broke the silence. Jessica stepped into the office, her expression unreadable yet resolute. "Thanks for meeting with me, Sarah," she began, bridging the gap with her usual warmth. "I wanted to discuss how things have been progressing and where we're heading next." Encouraged, Sarah straightened herself in the chair, her posture more confident than before. "I'd love to hear your thoughts." As they chatted, Jessica noted the positive reaction to Sarah's recent contributions, reinforcing the significance of her leadership role within the team. Yet beneath the congratulatory remarks, a thread of tension buzzed in the air. "However," Jessica continued, her tone delicately changing, "there are concerns from a few stakeholders about our strategic direction. They're questioning if we're being too adventurous with your recent ideas. It's not just about what we think, it's about how we articulate our vision to others." Suddenly, Sarah felt as though the foundation she had started to solidify was slipping beneath her. She resisted the urge to panic, instead allowing the feedback to settle in. She realized that vulnerability remained a crucial part of her growth, not a symptom of failure.
"I appreciate their concerns, and I believe we can address them effectively," she replied, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "I'm prepared to revisit my approaches and incorporate the stakeholders' feedback. After all, collaboration is essential for innovation." Jessica's eyes sparkled with approval. "That's exactly the kind of mindset we need. You've shown that your ideas can spark meaningful dialogue. Just remember that adaptation is part of the process." The exchange reinvigorated Sarah, but a sense of self-preservation also began to rise as she understood the delicate dance required to balance innovation with traditional expectations. Her mind flipped through possibilities on how to steer the conversation and strengthen her vision, recognizing it as an opportunity rather than an obstacle. Over the following days, Sarah meticulously planned her follow-up strategy. She sought out team members to gather a wider array of perspectives, keen on refining her vision while fortifying her position. Diving deeper into the project specifics, analyzing audience data, revisiting goals, and aligning them with innovative ideas ultimately became a means to empower her leadership. Accepting criticism became an empowering exercise, morphing anxiety into action. She realized that every conversation could enhance her understanding, bolster her credibility, and reinforce her authority. Each small victory in presenting her adapted vision generated a newfound resilience within her. But as she prepared for the upcoming stakeholder presentation, another wave of anxiety surged, dousing her newfound confidence. What if the feedback still leaned toward skepticism? Would her progress mean nothing if strong resistance surfaced? Determined not to repeat past mistakes, Sarah pulled her affirmations back into focus. She was no longer the uncertain team member sitting on the sidelines. Confidence surged within her. Every small act of courage nudged her closer to the leader she aspired to be. As the day of the presentation approached, she marked her thoughts with urgency. Each interaction was more than a question of survival. It transformed into the revealing of her capabilities, an assertion of her place in this evolving narrative. The time had come to face the stakeholders, to confront their doubts with the clarity and strength she had cultivated. Would they embrace her vision, or would she find herself swallowed by dissent once again? The culmination of her efforts lay just moments away, teetering on the brink of revelation. As the day of the presentation dawned, Sarah's mind was a battleground. Anxiety clouded her, but was combated by the preparations she had meticulously built over the past week. Each moment leading to this point felt like a summation of her journey, a test of her newfound resolve and growth. She stood before the mirror, adjusting her blouse, recounting the affirmations that had become crucial to her psyche. "I lead with purpose. My voice matters," yet doubt gnawed at her edges. Arriving at the conference room, she felt the weight of expectation. The glass walls reflected her determined expression, but inside, her heart raced. The stakeholders were seated, their faces a blend of skepticism and anticipation. She noticed Eric, a longtime adversary, already whispering to a colleague as she entered. His disapproving glare felt like an ice dagger, yet she reminded herself that this was not just a defense of her ideas, it was an assertion of her capabilities. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, projecting her voice with an assurance she didn't quite feel. As she laid out her refined vision, her words flowed like a stream, rich with data and insight she had gathered from discussions with her team. Sarah watched their reactions closely, searching for signs of acceptance. As she delved into her solutions for addressing the initial concerns raised by the stakeholders, Eric made a face that betrayed disdain.
When she unveiled her new approach, a comprehensive plan integrating innovation while being mindful of traditional routes, she noticed some heads nodding in approval. Jessica's earlier encouragement echoed in her mind. This was more than a presentation. It was a conversation crafted from collaboration. But then Eric raised his hand, smirking slightly. "Sarah, while I appreciate your enthusiasm, aren't you merely glossing over serious issues? How can we trust that your direction isn't just wishful thinking?" Ice coursed through her veins. How could he attack her with such dismissiveness? But his question sparked something deeper within her. She recognized the moment as an opportunity to further solidify her stance. Business was inherently about managing risks, and embracing skepticism could catalyze her response. "Eric, I understand your concerns. In fact, I welcome them," she replied, attempting to mask the tremor in her voice. "Each piece of feedback is invaluable, not just for planning, but for real growth. My ideas aren't finished products. They require iteration. I am committed to collaboration with each of you moving forward to refine our approach." As the room fell silent, Sarah felt a glimmer of power. It was a pivotal moment, not just defending her ideas, but illustrating her willingness to evolve. She drove the discussion further, inviting the stakeholders to share their doubts, transforming what could have been an adversarial exchange into a productive dialogue. Before long, tensions eased as perspective shifted. Questions were asked and voices chimed in, including those who had initially expressed skepticism. Each new idea created a richer canvas of collaboration, and Sarah felt energy infusing her, feeding her determination to overcome any further doubts lurking in the shadows. But when the meeting concluded and Kathleen, a senior stakeholder, approached, her expression was somber.
"Sarah, you've made valid points, but let's be honest, not everyone's convinced. We need a stronger risk mitigation strategy to back your vision." A tight knot formed in Sarah's stomach. Here was another hurdle, a new test of her adaptability. "I'll outline a stronger plan and would love to gather your expertise in the process," she suggested, feeling the fire of determination reignite. Kathleen's eyes softened, hinting that perhaps she recognized the spark in Sarah as well. As she walked out of the conference room, adrenaline coursed through her. She had faced resistance, reframed it into dialogue, and emerged with potential solutions. Yet the lingering uncertainty about the stakeholders' final verdict kept her grounded. What awaited her next was the real test of her resolve. Would she continue to adapt and show them the leader she had become, or would the shadows of doubt once again grip her heart? The path ahead had become clearer, but she knew it would require her utmost strength and sincerity. As she arrived at her desk, bolstered by a fleeting sense of victory, a notification chimed on her laptop. A message from Jessica. "We need to talk. Important developments have arisen." The weight of those words settled heavily within her. What lay ahead promised to challenge not only her professional skills, but also her emotional endurance. The weight of uncertainty pressed against Sarah as she opened Jessica's message, her heart beating with both curiosity and trepidation. What developments could require their immediate attention? After successfully navigating the showdown with the stakeholders, this moment felt crucial. With resolve, she prepared to meet Jessica, reminding herself of the progress they had made. No more shadows dancing between them. She was determined to step into her power, not just as a leader, but as a co-benefactor of the vision they were bringing to life together. When they met in the small conference room, Sarah noticed the intensity in Jessica's eyes, an urgency that mirrored her own apprehension. "Sarah, I've been thinking about our direction and the procedures we've put in place. Something has come to my attention," Jessica began, her voice steady yet laced with gravity. Sarah leaned in, instantly focused. "What is it?" she inquired, her professional instinct kicking in. "I've been approached by a few stakeholders who believe we need to pivot significantly, rethink our entire strategy," Jessica said, a flash of concern crossing her face. "It's not just about your ideas. They want to maintain the traditional approach. These conversations could unravel everything." A chill ran through Sarah's body. The very thought of erasing their hard-fought progress filled her with dread. "Are they suggesting that we abandon the innovative direction we've discussed?" she asked, feeling her voice waver slightly. "Yes, and it's not just about preserving the status quo. It's about fear of the unknown, Sarah," Jessica replied, her tone resolute yet empathetic. "If we don't address their concerns with a solid risk management plan, everything we've built could crumble." The truth was stark. They were treading dangerous ground, and this time, Sarah would need to be both a leader and a protector of their evolving ideas. "We need to rally support," she said, determination igniting within her.
If we can extend a collaborative invitation to the stakeholders, we can combine our visions, show them that innovation doesn't mean discarding the past. Jessica regarded her for a moment, consideration flickering in her gaze. That would require you to step forward, and I mean really show the depth of your leadership. Are you ready for that? The question hung in the air like a challenge, and Sarah felt every ounce of her previously debilitating self-doubt stir. Was she ready? It was no longer a matter of questioning herself. It was about harnessing everything she had learned thus far. She could either shrink back into conformity or rise to the occasion and assert her position. Yes, she answered firmly, the conviction in her voice fueling her spirit. I want to lead this effort. I want to help them see that our ideas can coexist with the legacy they value. Jessica's lips curled into a slight smile, a flicker of pride that bolstered Sarah's confidence. Then let's set up a meeting with the stakeholders. You can present your vision alongside the risk strategies we've developed. Invite their feedback openly. The urgency shifted into action. Over the next few days, Sarah meticulously crafted a presentation that became a tapestry of innovation interwoven with traditional values. She knew their apprehensions. She could incorporate them as strengths, showcasing how they would achieve both preservation and transformation. As the day approached, nerves began to bubble beneath her surface. But with each affirmation she repeated, with each moment of practice in the mirror, she reinforced her readiness. I am a leader deserving of my place. I can bridge the gap between fear and possibility. The morning of the presentation felt electric. A whirlwind of energy filled the room as stakeholders gathered, their expressions a mix of skepticism and guarded curiosity. Sarah's heart pounded, yet she held herself steady, knowing she had forged connections with her team and catalyzed opportunities for cooperation. When the presentation began, Sarah's voice rang clear, guided by a newfound sense of purpose. As she unfolded her vision, narrating the points of intersection where innovation met tradition, she witnessed subtle movements among the audience. Heads nodded, eyes narrowed in concentration. The dialogue was shifting. Instead of disregarding the past, she asserted passionately, we can elevate it by embracing it in conjunction with forward-thinking strategies.
Here's how we can assure that the risks we embrace are managed with diligence, while showcasing the value of innovation. The unease that once filled the room began to dissipate. Questions arose, but they were no longer tainted with criticism. Curiosity emerged. Collaboratively, they explored possibilities, redrawn boundaries, and reignited hopes of a bright future for their practice. When Sarah concluded, a wave of pride washed over her. She had navigated not just a presentation, but a transformative conversation. Jessica stood by her side, visibly impressed, and the stakeholders were not only listening, they were participating. When the meeting wrapped up, the applause lingered in the air, but more importantly, conversations ensued about the next steps forward on their united path. Sarah felt a profound weight lift from her shoulders. She had proved herself not only as a leader, but as a worthy collaborator, intricately weaving her narrative alongside Jessica's. She had planted seeds of trust, nurturing them with shared visions and burgeoning respect. As she left the conference room, she knew she had crossed a threshold. The shadows of fear loomed far behind her. Sarah's fulfillment and confidence reflected a new chapter, not just of her professional career, but of self-realization. Today had confirmed that true leadership was not solely about control. It was about collaboration, embracing vulnerability, and transforming doubts into instruments of growth. And with that realization, she knew she was no longer a nurse simply caring for her family legacy. She was a pivotal force in shaping their future, carrying within her a tenacity she had never fully acknowledged before. It was time to embrace her role, step boldly into the upcoming challenges, and lead with unwavering faith in herself and her ambitions, intertwining the old with the new. Do you want to hear more stories about personal transformation and achievement like Sarah's? You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for our channel. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Click like now to feed the algorithm. Every bit of support helps us grow. And comment below with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about today's emotional journey. Let's create a community that celebrates empowerment and growth.